Mama, yeah. And we are live in this thing. What's good with it, family? As always, if y'all just now joining the stream and you're not part of the Black Goose family, hit that subscribe button down below, man. Join the family. This is what we do here, man. We chop it up, we talk, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times it's about boxing, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's just about life. But you know what we do here, man. We family out here, so it's just casual conversation. It's Wednesday up in this thing. I told you I was gonna be back on Wednesday. As always, man, we keeping it funky, we keeping it fresh, we keeping it consistent. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is the goals when it comes to talking some boxing talk, and then as always, Saturdays we going live. So once again, y'all not part of the family, hit that subscribe button. Give me a little second to start up because as always, I got to make sure that the sound is crispy. So I'm gonna do a little mic check real quick. As always, but happy Wednesday to everybody. So I'm pulling this bad boy up right now. So we're gonna take a second to make sure everything is sounding good as possible because that is the goal for all of y'all. Let's turn this thing up. Let's see how it's going. Bam, 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 bam. I know y'all heard that feedback. I know y'all heard that feedback. So we got good feedback popping off. So we're gonna get right back. We're gonna get right up into it, man. We're gonna start it off because I'm not gonna be here too long. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be the new thing, baby, right here. So y'all see the title below. We're getting right up into this. Deontay Wilder and Dillian Whyte having a lot of back and forth going on right now, man. You know what I'm saying? As always, a lot of people is rocking against Deontay Wilder, but then as always, Deontay Wilder's core fan base is rocking heavy with him. So you know what I'm saying? The first thing I like to say when it comes to this particular beef is it really just goes back to what I've been kind of echoing through this whole Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder situation is Wilder's career is not done, and that is very evident when it comes to the fact that he has a lot of choices out there to fight when it comes to the heavyweight division. And I've never understood, that perspective where people was basically saying Deontay Wilder is washed, he's finished. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have a career without Tyson Fury since he took the L and all that type of things. It was very weird to me that people would say that, but at the same time, uh, uh, um, it's to be expected, right? To be expected, simply because when it comes to boxing, fans very very emotional. You know what I'm saying? But that's fans, period. You know what I'm saying? Fans is short for fanatics, so that's just how it goes. Um, so you just you got to actually appreciate the love that people show the sport, but also sometimes it can get a little weary because no one's really realistic about what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Let me get this text out. And that's the unfortunate part to me. You know what I'm saying? Like there's information out there that you can see. You don't have to be as biased as most people usually are. But they still play, they still do it because what I'm saying, either that's their favorite boxer or they got so much hate for another boxer, all they want to do is see them fail. And I feel like Deontay Wilder is either that you're totally on this side of the spectrum, you're totally on this side. There's no in between when it comes to him, which is very interesting to me. It's always, look, I totally love this motherfucker, or I totally hate this motherfucker. I want him to fail. Some people may say, that's on Deontay Wilder himself. Some may say, what I'm saying, Deontay Wilder put that on himself for basically coming out with the allegations and things like that. And a lot of people say he ducked a lot of people. They disrespect his resume, things like that. Whatever it may be, if there's one thing you can't take away from Wilder is that you know what I'm saying? He got special KO power, man. He's one of the most feared heavyweights in the division. You know what I'm saying? A lot of boxing hardcore heads, they I feel like they have a disdain toward Wilder because what I'm saying, when someone is blessed with something that you can't teach, you get a lot of haters, man. Look at LeBron, man. LeBron got a lot of haters because he's blessed with something you just can't teach. Yeah, he's got hardest work ethic ever. You know what I'm saying? He has amazing fundamental skills, but his frame and his athleticism, how long he's able to go when it comes to hooping, and his body and the less injuries, that brings a lot of haters about being like, well, if MJ had that body, if Kobe had the body, this, and that, but that's not the case. You can't teach that. You feel me? So, with that being said, you got to respect it, right? Um, y'all give me 1 second, real quick. 1 second. I'm gonna let me take this phone call real quick. All right, y'all, I'm back with it. So, um, anyways, like I was saying, when people have a certain aspect to them that can get them very far when it comes to a professional sport, a lot of people are going to have a disdain towards that. Because a lot of people will look at it as if, well, look, I got all the skill, I got all the fundamental, but if I was blessed with that, I would be where he is. So it's real easy for people to say that, but that's not an easy thing. That means you're 1%. Like that's a talent as well, even though it's a God-given gift. And I think that's the thing, or the reason why people feel the way they feel when it comes to Deontay Wilder. But with that being to the side, everyone knows Dillian Whyte and Deontay Wilder has somewhat been entangled with each other for the longest, and a lot of that comes with Dillian Whyte. Obviously, he was the number one contender for the WBC title for like a long ass time. Or one of the running themes when it came to Dillian Whyte and Deontay Wilder was in a sense ducking or disrespecting Dillian Whyte because he would never give him a shot at the title because Dillian Whyte was a mandatory for such a long period of time. So Eddie Hearn and his team with Dillian Whyte, they were able to throw a narrative out on their side. Hey, man, he's ducking me because look how long I've been a mandatory and I haven't gotten the fight. Deontay Wilder, on the other hand, his team, what they like to throw out for their narrative is just basically, what's the point of me giving you that fight when I have so many other lucrative, I'm not saying more skilled, I'm not saying better opponents, but lucrative offers to deal with than you, and it's in-house. A lot of people don't understand just like any other crossover fight that's hard to make. Errol Spence, Bud Crawford, it's something that's been recently been talked about like crazy. Back when Tevin Farmer was the guy, Tevin Farmer was Gervonta Davis. Like those, even though a lot of people want to see it, it's so hard to be made because it has nothing to do with ducking. It has nothing to do with fighting tomato cans, even though that's the narrative so many people, so many boxing fans want to take. Even though that is the narrative they want to hit on, they want to talk about, that is not the case. This is a business. And that's one of the biggest things I like to touch on, or I like to emphasize when it comes to my boxing talk when I cover these things is I'm not necessarily talking specifically about what one fighter wants to do or what one fighter doesn't, or I'm speculating, oh, why was he acting like that? Because I think all that shit is bullshit. I'm like, if you really, if you really was in the gym, if you really trained, if you really know the grind it takes, or even partial the grind it takes to get to where they are, or to even do something like that for a consistent basis, none of these guys are ducking anybody. It comes down to business wise, what makes the most sense for the promoter, what makes the most sense for the fighter, financially, what makes the most sense for the parent company, whatever parent company is being broadcast on, whatever it may be. That's what it comes down to. But regardless how much talk I talk when it comes to this, people do not give a fuck, and they still go strictly at the fight. And they say he doesn't want the fight. Like sometimes, I try to contain myself and be as respectful as possible. But I'm like, man, some of y'all dumb as fuck. Like for real. Like, come on. I'm like, that's like me coming to your job and you know what I'm saying? Me coming to your job, me looking out from the inside, from the outside in, and your boss offers you a raise, right? Hey, yo, I can give you a raise for this amount of money. You can work less hours, or you're not gonna have as much responsibility as you did before, and I'm gonna give you more money. Or you can have this option where you can have more responsibility, you have to do more things, but I'm either keep you at the same pay or you're gonna make a little bit less. Which would you choose? Right. So it's as simple as that. So it's the same thing with boxing, right? If you have a guy like Deontay Wilder, since this is what we're using, and you have the option between fighting a guy like Dillian Whyte, who basically you'll make a certain amount of money, and it's not necessarily going to be doing good, do very good numbers pay-per-view wise over in America. And then you have a guy like Luis Ortiz, who a lot of people be like, no one really knows him, but you'll probably get the same amount of numbers pay-per-view wise as you will Dillian Whyte. But when it comes to Dillian Whyte, his promotion. His promoter is Eddie Hearn. So this is going to be something that you're going to have to split the pot in a different way. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about fighter purse, because, there's always going to be an A side to B side, but I'm talking about the parent companies that they're going to be under, or the promotional companies they're going to be under. Not necessarily promotional companies, but more so parent companies. If you have a PBC and you have a DAZN, obviously they're going to have to split the overall profit. So that trickles down to affect the fighter's pocket. So if you're Deontay Wilder and you see this, you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna pick Luis Ortiz, who is basically in the same stable as mine. We won't have to worry about the top. What I mean by that, the parent company to split profit. So that means more money is going to trickle down into our pockets, in the aftermath of everything. So that's what it comes down to. It's the same exact scenario. It's the same exact way that you can look at it. Whereas, and you can see it as if you at your job and basically your boss is like, hey, you can do less work, less hours for this for more money, or you can do more work with more hours for the same amount of money. Most people, what are you gonna choose? You know what I'm saying? Or for a little bit less, or for a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? What are you gonna choose? Be you know, you got to be smart about it. So it's the same. It's the same exact aspect. So fast forward to where Dillian Whyte and Deontay Wilder is now. Deontay Wilder recently named like 4 or 5 opponents that he wants to fight: Joseph Parker, Alexander Usyk, Dillian Whyte, Robert Helenius, and I know I'm missing one other right now. Oh, and Andy Ruiz Jr. That's that he was if I can't get the Fury fight, then I definitely want to try and get one of those fights. And now that that's came up, obviously the first person to say anything was Dillian Whyte. From BoxingNews24.com, Dillian Whyte says Deontay Wilder must dance to my tune. Basically saying he was saying, oh, all this time I've been trying to get the fight. Now you took an L, and now you want to fight me. That's the bullshit. So he basically said if he fights me, it's the only way he's going to make any form of decent money. Tyson Fury is not fighting him at all. Deontay Wilder is not a big draw at all. So that is one of the stupidest things I ever heard, because he made good money against. He made about the same money against Luis Ortiz that he made against Fury. It's just overall he ends up making more with Fury because there's going to be more pay-per-view points. He's getting a percentage of that, and then also obviously when it comes to sponsors and things like that, he's going to get more money fighting a bigger name like Fury. But he made good money against Luis Ortiz. He also made good money against Dominic Brazil. So that's dumb. And Deontay Wilder, he knocks people cold. So people are going to. And on top of that, like we already said, people love to hate him. So if they love to hate him, you're going to have people who's going to be tuning in who love him. You're going to have people who's tuning in who love to hate him. And you're going to have people tuning in just to see a big knockout, because that's basically 3 components that will always translate into money. So obviously, Dillian Whyte is kind of talking out his ass right now. If I beat Povetkin, I'll be chasing the world title. He needs to dance on my tune. I want to beat the guy up, to be honest with you. So let's finish this quote. When I was a challenger, I went through hell trying to get him to man up and fight me, and he wouldn't fight me. So I'm going to chase the world title. So I respect that. Obviously, if Whyte beats Povetkin, he'll be the WBC mandatory challenger once again. Obviously, Tyson Fury has that belt, but let's be real. If Dillian Whyte beats Povetkin, he'll be in the same position he was with Wilder. Tyson Fury is not going to fight Dillian Whyte. That fight makes no sense to him. Tyson Fury's radar is literally the AJ fight, and then maybe the trilogy fight with Deontay Wilder. Anything in between is just going to be basically tune-ups fights for him. It's not going to be nothing crazy challenging. Which I still think Dillian Whyte could be a tune-up fight for Fury, but Dillian Whyte would ask just too much money, in my opinion, unless he decides to take a pay cut and take a chance just so he can get that WBC belt. So let's be real. If you know anything about boxing, you know that's not going to happen. And it's interesting that, so obviously you have to keep your confidence. You have to make sure that you talk the talk and you walk the walk, but you can't talk all that shit and say, if I beat Povetkin, right? So you're technically in the same boat as Wilder, in the worst boat actually, because Wilder lost to the guy named Tyson Fury, the greatest heavyweight, of right now, and some people are saying of all time. So, and not only that, he's right now in mediation trying to get that third fight to get done. And there's reports where let me see if I can find that real quick, where Eddie Hearn basically said, Hearn says Joshua won't wait for Fury to take an interim fight in 2020. So Hearn says Joshua has a WBO mandatory Alexander Usyk that he would have to take care of if Fury basically takes a tune-up fight or anything like that. Basically, Hearn, we're not waiting for Fury to fight in March. Look at that. I don't know what's happening with Fury stuff. I saw a comment yesterday from Frank Warren saying basically we couldn't find the money to get Tyson Fury out this year. That's a horrendous look, because that's your A-star fighter. You have to find a way to get him out. But now the courts are in a meeting, are they? They have a couple weeks to decide if Fury has to honor the rematch. I'm saying we're very confident in our position. I hope they are, because we, Joshua and I, not waiting for Fury to fight in March. If AJ beats Pull-Up, that's our May fight or June fight at the latest. Says Pull-Up's going to knock AJ out and there won't be a problem. But he says if AJ beats Pull-Up, we'll go straight into that fight with Fury. I hope so, because we can't wait around. So just hold your hopes until December 12th. So I'm like, just hearing that, I'm sticking by my original prediction when I told y'all that what's going to happen is we're going to see Wilder versus Fury 3 probably in the summer of next year. If AJ beats Pulla, we're going to see AJ versus Usyk, and then basically AJ beats Usyk, gets the belt. Fury beats Wilder again. Then we're gonna have that mega fight of Fury versus AJ. That's the cards that are lined up. So I don't see AJ versus Fury happening next year. I don't see Fury deciding to fight AJ without having a fight in between. So that only adds up to the fact of most likely we're going to see Fury versus AJ in 2022. Especially with this whole coronavirus pandemic ramping back up again. A lot of people don't want to talk about that. That's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? We're seeing now possibility of a lot of shutdowns and lockdowns possibly happening in the future. How is that going to affect the sport? How is that going to affect big fights? How is that going to affect fights that are being held off simply because of this particular, pandemic? Are we going to start seeing promoters be like, man, fuck it. We're just going to have to get used to the fact that we're not going to be able to get the revenue from the audience that we want, and we're just going to have to go ahead with it, which we're kind of seeing that this year, which is dope. But you can still see a lot of it is just because they're trying to make, if we put these two guys together, we can make up some of the revenue that we will lose or losing without having fans there, basically through pay-per-view or views and sponsorships when it comes to the fights. But you know what I'm saying, people are still wary, right? If they end up figuring out like, okay, this might be the new norm for like about 2 more years, then we're gonna have to see the fights, these big old fights, especially with heavyweights, you know what I'm saying, without fans, which would be interesting. Right. So you know what I'm saying, I think it's very interesting the back and forth that we're seeing between Dillian Whyte and Wilder. You know what I'm saying? Wilder and Dillian Whyte, in my opinion, would be the fight to make. But it's hard to see that line up with Whyte having to wait until like the end of January to fight Povetkin. Wilder's always said if he can't get the Fury fight, he wants to fight in like January, something like that. And obviously that would be a tune-up fight for him. Fury would probably fight. Yeah, they already said we won't see him until about February. So Fury fights in February, and like I said, most likely we'll see them meet back up in the summer. Dillian Whyte, I think his path right now is, you know what I'm saying. In my opinion, that Povetkin loss, as much as I love Dillian Whyte, I think that Povetkin loss kind of took him totally out of the big fights, like a Fury fight, or well, basically the three-headed monster: Fury, Wilder, Anthony Joshua. I think Dillian Whyte's completely out of that spectrum. Only because one, the Povetkin lost, and the Povetkin rematch didn't happen when it did. If it did, like we would have already seen them fight for the rematch basically, or it would have been coming up. I can't remember, it was November something. And then that way, if Whyte beats Povetkin, now Whyte can talk that shit, right? Whyte can be like, hey, bruh, like it's time, and they can line that up for it to happen, or he can talk his shit. We're like, you gotta wait around for me because he revenged his loss, and now he's in a position where he can fight again next year and basically choose who he wants. Now that he's waiting around in the wings for that Povetkin rematch, you don't have much leverage to go with. Deontay Wilder has a little bit more leverage to go with because one, he's trying to get the third fight with Fury, and if it doesn't go through, he still has a ton of options of people that he can fight, even though a lot of people want to make it out and seem like he doesn't. Like I said, the heavyweight division is thriving right now. So for people to act like no one's gonna watch Deontay Wilder versus Andy Ruiz Jr., no one's gonna watch Deontay Wilder versus Joseph Parker, no one's gonna watch Deontay Wilder versus Alexander Usyk, no one's gonna watch Deontay Wilder versus Daniel Dubois, Deontay Wilder versus Joe Joyce. You know what I'm saying? All these guys, like, but people to say they won't watch that, I think it's just, y'all just hating. It's just bullshit. Let's just be 100 with it. Take your emotions out of it. Let's just see it for what it is. So, but like I said, me personally, out of all those fights, Deontay Wilder versus Dillian Whyte is the fight to make. But that's going to be the hardest one to make because of the conflict in schedules and because Dillian Whyte is just basically waiting around for Povetkin. So, if Fury and Deontay Wilder don't end up, happening this year, which I don't think it is, I see Deontay Wilder probably fighting January, February, but I don't think we're going to see him necessarily fighting a big name. Robert Helenius, I think that would be a good fight to make. Probably the most feasible, probably the most, the best chance of getting made. But if it's not Robert Helenius, maybe, Adam Kawanaki, maybe just, a guy that he's going to get in there and he's going to basically use as a tune-up, and that's what we're going to see from Fury as well. So, That's my take on that. When it comes to the Dillian Whyte and Deontay Wilder feud, I think it's beautiful. I think it would, I think it would do great numbers if they fought each other. I think it's bullshit to try and, for people to say, oh, Dillian Whyte should, basically ice him out because Deontay Wilder iced him out. All you have to do is look into that, man. That's such a stupid thing. Deontay Wilder avoided Dillian Whyte. He should do the same thing, man. It's all about money, man. You see, Dillian Whyte himself said it. He's like, man, he ain't gonna make no money fighting anyone other than Fury. So I'm gonna make him wait. Like, bro, Deontay Wilder can literally fight anyone on the PBC roster in the heavyweight division. He'll make just as much as he does fighting Dillian Whyte. That's just a fact. If y'all don't believe me, do your Googles. Do your fucking Googles. All right, I'm not even gonna break that down like that because, like I said, we're just running through some motherfucking boxing topics. That's all we doing here, and we're just rocking through it. So salute to the people. Anybody who jumped in, man, hit that like button, show some love. I know a lot of y'all hate it when I be giving y'all the facts when it comes to a lot of the situation with Wilder, Fury, Dillian Whyte, whatever it may be, because a lot of people hate Wilder. A lot of people don't like him, like I said earlier, because that God-given ability, but also a lot of people don't like him too because of the whole allegations, and they feel like he hasn't took his L like a man, so on and so forth. I can understand that aspect of it. No one likes to hear all that jibber jabber after, but at the same time, you know what I'm saying? You can't deny that it's always about money. It's always about money. It's always about money. This is motherfuckers' jobs. So that's what it's going to come down to. Profit, margin, revenue. Jesus Christ. And then I also wanted to get into, y'all see, Eddie Hearn came to Terrence Crawford's defense. Eddie Hearn and Dana White, actually. You know what I'm saying? Which is pretty, well, I don't want to say pretty surprising. I'm not surprised that Eddie Hearn came out and defended Terrence Crawford because Eddie Hearn, he's trying to get over he's trying to get in the States, man. He's trying to get in the States. He's trying to find an up-and-coming boxer that he can really promote in the States. Right now, Devin Haney is the project that he's using. But if he can get an already established big name, pound for pound, the best fighter that, ESPN ranked him as, but if he wasn't with Top Rank, they probably wouldn't rank him number one, but we'll get into that later. If he can do that, that'll be a big deal for Matchroom Boxing. It'll be a big deal for the zone. But this is what Eddie Hearn had to say to Bob Arum. Let me make sure I got the right quote. Here we go. It's from BoxingScene.com. I thought it was so disrespectful to Terrence Crawford, to be honest with you. Hearn stated during a recent interview on the Akam Barak show, I mean, you got this guy here who is pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. As far as I'm concerned, the relationship is over. You can see that by the interview. The relationship is over. I believe his contract is up in October or something like that. I don't blame Bob because he's too old to tell lies. He doesn't care. He just don't care. I just feel like I don't think what Terrence Crawford is doing, does he need to do more media? Does he need to be more controversial? For me, you have to build on a foundation that you have when you're building a fighter. So let's look at the foundation of Terrence Crawford. He's an absolute superstar in Omaha. He's actually a lot of fun, very funny, very cheeky, and he has a very dry sense of humor. He's an unbelievable athlete. He's a very, very strong family man. He's a very good role model. He's an absolute boxing expert. He knows about all fighters. He's probably a historian. I'm just telling you as a Brit, and as we're finding out, maybe it's a little different in the U.S., but for me, this guy has it all. Show me a weakness in Terrence Crawford. Oh, he doesn't do it in as many media interviews as we like. Okay, that could be worked on. That's about a personal relationship and trust to make sure your fighter's doing the right thing. Let's look at it, what we've got here. We've got a top 3 pound for pound in the world. We've got a guy with a great smile who's funny, who's articulate, who's a family man, an ambassador for boxing through and through, who's American, is a world champion. It's not even a glass half full situation. It's glass 90% full situation. You just got to top the rest of the milk up and it's full. I love Terrence Crawford. I think he's great. I just think he lost a little bit of his mojo. For me, the last thing you want as a fighter in an interview on ESPN is your promoter standing there saying, well, he's just not really worth it. That's the platform to stand up there and say, this guy's the best fighter I've ever worked with. You have to push it. Everyone watching this interview is now saying this guy isn't much of a star. He's finding it difficult getting fights because nobody recognizes him. Bad move. That kind of supports my theory that I've been saying, where I think Bob Arum is using a selling tactic, where basically you have a great product, or, in this case, a great fighter, and you're underselling him to the general public. So you will have the best bet at getting him back. Now, it sounds crazy, but it is a term where you're underselling. Other people may call it going negative, where basically you're putting out in the atmosphere like you don't really want the guy. So when you go to the negotiating table and you present him with this crazy offer, it's kind of like a psychological thing where, Terrence Crawford could be sitting there and be like, man, I remember all that bullshit you talked about me. And then he gives him like the biggest offer he's ever had. He's going to be like, what the fuck? is a real psychological thing when it comes to negotiating. That's what I think Bob Erm is doing, and Eddie Hearn he kind of agreed with me there with what he said by saying basically, you're going out there, you're making it seem like he's not the best pound for pound fighter, and now people are looking at him like, really, is he really worth what he might be asking? So it's a sell. In my opinion, it's a tactic, selling tactic. That's all it is. Mind games, and Bob Arum was one of the best at it. Let's go to the other guy, man, Dana White, which Eddie Hearn is Dana White 2.0 in my opinion. It's very interesting for Dana White to get into this because, by the way, if y'all know, Dana White is he's in the boxing game now. Zuffa Boxing's been around a lot, but he's really in it now. He has Claressa Shields' upcoming title match on his shit. So you got to, do you imagine if I said that? Are you fucking kidding me? Said UFC boss Dana White. You guys would murder me if I said that. I never hear the end of that. That's what you do. That's not his problem, Crawford's problem. That's your problem, Bob Earl's problem. His problem is to figure out how you make money. You signed a deal with this kid. Your job is to promote him. You made a deal. I have to pay these kids. How I pay them is not their problem. It's my problem. Imagine me saying, I got to pay Conor McGregor this much money. I could have built a house in Beverly Hills. Shut the fuck up. You fucking scumbag. Pay your fucking fighter what you owe him. That's your job, Bob is a piece of fucking shit. So Dana White don't hold nothing back. I love that he went so heavy on that, man. I gotta respect Dana White for that, man. People been saying they want to see Dana White in the boxing game, and they've been saying they wanted to see if he would do things differently. He's slowly making his way. He's in the women's big deal promoting Claressa Shields in that championship fight. But what I'm saying, if he could really get in the game and really like get a big name fighter, man, that'd be something special. But hey, man, you got to salute to Eddie Hearn. You got to salute to Dana White. Obviously, Eddie Hearn is doing it because he wants Terrence Crawford. He wants to sign him. So that's another selling tactic where I love you so much. I could do all these things, but you might have to take less money with me than Bob Arum. But I love you so much. I'm gonna put all this money behind you to promote you, make you big. You can get all the fights you want, but I can't pay you what Bob Arum wants. While Bob Arum is doing the exact opposite. And I don't really want the kid. He's not that good. And, he can't promote himself. Nobody really pays attention to him. And then when Terrence Crawford sits at the negotiation table and he's like, "Man, fuck you," Bob Arum's like, "Yeah, but look at this," and it's going to be a bit. That's just my speculation, obviously. So just different selling tactics from the two people. And then I salute Dana White because obviously Dana White, he can't sign him. He's not even in that field yet when it comes to boxing on the male side of the game. So for him to say that, obviously, one, that shows his disdain for Bob Arum, that shows his disdain for how the sport's being run, and then also shows a disdain of how he treats one of his best guys in his stable, which is stupid to me. So salute to that. So last but not least, I'm gonna get up out of here with this little nugget from Boxing News 24. Canelo is interested in fighting Errol Spence in the future. Spence is a great fighter. The weight is very difficult, but we'll see later. He's a great fighter, say Canelo, because obviously, Canelo's fighting at super middleweight against Callum Smith. That's 168. Errol Spence is down at 147. People's already said Errol Spence plans to move up in weight, but is there a future in Errol to go all the way up to either middleweight or super middleweight? Who knows, man? Who knows? But maybe they could do a catch weight, whatever it may be. But is that a fight people would want to see? Is that a fight people would be interested in? I'll just be 100 with you. It would be interesting to see Errol Spence at a heavier weight. How would he be able to hold that weight? Will he carry more power? Will it do anything maybe to his stamina, to his cardio? Or will it just make him a grittier fighter or make him worse fighter? He's been saying he's going to move up at some point to 154. But is there a ceiling, right? The most ideal weight for Canelo versus Errol would be 160. But that's a big weight jump for Errol, and that's not necessarily the worst cut for Canelo for him being at 168 now, but it's still a pretty heavy cut for Canelo. So, but that's Canelo's word, man. He said he's interested in the Errol Spence fight. I think if Errol continues on the trajectory that he's going, I think that would be a fight that could be made. But obviously, what we need to focus on is getting Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford to happen. Errol's already said he thinks he deserves a 60-40 split if the fight does happen. But it would be interesting to see if Terrence Crawford does end up leaving Bob or old man Bob Arum for like a matchroom boxing. Would they be able to stand by that? I honestly don't think it's a 60-40 split for Errol and Terrence. Me personally, I don't think Errol is as popular as people try to make it seem. Like the popularity Terrence Crawford has, I think Errol is right there with him. But I may be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Some people be like, "Man, you sound dumb as hell." Hey, But I don't think Earl Spence is that much more popular than Terrence. I think they're kind of same in the same atmosphere. Now, if Earl wins by devastating KO to Danny Garcia, then boom, yeah, we got something to talk about. If Earl has a tough fight with Danny Garcia, nah, I'm just not giving him that. But I appreciate everybody who came up in here, man. I know not too many of y'all hit that like button. So please, if y'all rewatch this, hit the like button, show some love. I'm going to be back Friday. We're going to chop it up. We're going to talk a little bit. That's the news of the day. I posted the video of Do Something Every Day, day 26. Today and yesterday was definitely not the best workouts when it comes to energy wise, but I still got it in. Tomorrow I'm gonna try and re-amp it up. I'm gonna try and hit it much harder than I did. But at the end of the day, the goal is to do something every day. So everybody been rocking with me. Appreciate y'all. Before I get up out of here, as always, man, hit that subscribe button if you're not part of the Black Goose family. Join the Black Goose family. Much love to everybody, man. Stay blessed, stay prayed up, and try to stay away from the stress. It's all about consistency and love, man. So that's what it's all about. Keep your mentals right. But I'm up out of here, man. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my night. Eat me some food. Get ready for work tomorrow. We here though. Friday, make sure you'll join me. And Saturday, we're going live for that UFC card. I may not go live the whole card, but we're gonna be up in here for a little bit, man, just to watch some fights and chop it up. But I'm up out of here, man. Salute to y'all. Salute to the people.